will Ulster and Éire ever be one? The leaders of Sinn Fein are in London today to call for a referendum for a united Ireland within the next 5 years.
Party President Mary Lou McDonald says Northern Ireland being part of the UK makes no economic sense. She leads the opposition party in the Irish Parliament, while her deputy, Michelle O'Neill, is First Minister in Northern Ireland. Mary Lou McDonald joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning.
To you. So you're calling for this referendum. Is the support there, though? Because a recent poll shows only 34% of people in Northern Ireland supported a united Ireland. You've got a way to go, haven't you, to convince people?
Well, look, first of all, good morning and thanks for having me. We are now 27 years on since the Good Friday Agreement, as we all know, a historic moment where we settle on the democratic and institutional arrangements to end what was a conflict that ran for centuries, where we create the space to build peace, reconciliation, build friendships, build relationships across the island of Ireland, but also between Ireland and Britain, very, very importantly. And at the heart of that agreement is a commitment to referendums to make the decision on partition. Just remember, more than a century ago, Ireland was partitioned down the barrel of a British gun. There was no democracy involved. It was imposed on the island, and the consequences of it were literally devastating for our island and deeply, deeply damaging to the relationship between Britain and Ireland. And we need to fix all that. So politics has changed. We've all moved on. The peace has been established. I think we have made enormous strides, all of us. And I think Ireland and Britain and all the political leaders and the people deserve great credit for that. And now we're at a point where we say, what's the next chapter? And for us, logically, in economic terms, in social terms, in democratic terms, Irish unity makes sense.
But the support,
so on the support level, just remember this. Any polling that's done now is done in a context where there hasn't been an active conversation around preparing for referendums or raising the questions around what will our health service look like? What will our education system look like? So in a way, for us now, our first ask is that preparation needs to start. Now, we do not, with all due respect, want to walk down a Brexit scenario where a question is put and the political system has no answer. You remember famously, Brexit is Brexit. Like, that's not an answer. In my opinion, it never was. So there's work to be done here, and it's really, really important that the government in Dublin, and critically that Keir Starmer, is actually true to the Labour Party legacy of building peace in Ireland, of being part of progress in Ireland, and is a partner to the Dublin government in laying the ground and making the preparations.
You have an absolute mountain to climb here because you are going to have to persuade people living in Ulster, living in Northern Ireland, nearly 50% of them, that unification is in their best interests. When they feel passionately, and we know how high passions run on this, passionately that it's not. If you're talking to a unionist watching this right now, this morning, what would be the key selling point that you've got in your armoury to persuade him or her or his family or her family?
Well, the first thing I would say,
unification is the way to go.
The first thing I would say, Richard, to a unionist is I absolutely accept and appreciate unionism will argue for the union. I mean, none of us should be surprised about this.
As it's entitled to.
Oh, absolutely. I totally respect that. This will be a democratic process where the proposition is put, a reunified Ireland that has all of the economic options and levers and opportunities that will come with this, or the maintenance of a border that has brought a financial and a social cost. And I would say to our unionist friends, those for whom the question of identity and being British is at the core of their concerns. You are British in a partitioned Ireland. You will be British in a united Ireland. This is not an attempt to in any way push back against the identity or the integrity of somebody's sense of self. This is about building a modern, dynamic,
But why do you want Northern Ireland still so badly? Because economically, I think it's fair to say it's close to being a basket case at the moment. This country pays in a huge amount in terms of subsidies to Ulster far more than we get back. I mean, it actually, if you like, it's running at a loss. Why are you keep talking about economics?
Yeah.
Why are you so keen
because
to absorb a country, as it were, like that?
Well, it's not a country.
No, but
it's part of the
what I'm
region.
saying.
But
yeah.
however, let's not quibble over that. You see, I think the core of that question is, why is the 6 counties, why is the North consistently in economic difficulties? And the answer to that question, Richard, is because it is not economically viable as a territory. It's 6 counties of the historic 9-county province of Ulster. It's cut off from its natural political, social and economic hinterland. Remember this, since the peace agreement was signed in 1998, the value of the All-Ireland economy has multiplied 6-fold. The natural economic activity for a small island like Ireland is the entire island. It makes no sense to partition.
Would you abide by a referendum? Supposing you won the argument and you got a referendum and you had the statistics to back up that referendum under the Northern Ireland Agreement, and you lost, would that be it? Would you drop the idea?
No, we will never drop the idea of the freedom and unity of our country.
So you'd come back for another referendum in maybe another 10 years?
This is... The Irish people had to really, really struggle. As a matter of fact, we had to fight for our freedom.
So how long would you accept the referendum result for, then?
So what the agreement answers that question for us. The agreement envisages a question is put, and in the event, and I hope it wouldn't be the case that it has to be put again, there is a 7-year timeline on that.
Right.
So the logic of the agreement was to build peace, to build reconciliation, to deal with what are called the bread and butter issues of people's lives, their lived experiences, their standard of living. But the reality is partition is not sustainable. And by the way, you quoted some polling data there, but there's other data that matters. So, for example, unionism has lost its electoral majority. It's gone. It's been gone for several election cycles. My colleague, as you mentioned, Michelle O'Neill, is First Minister in a place that was designed, specifically engineered to maintain a perpetual unionist majority. But that's gone now, that's over. And I think all of us, unionist, loyalist, Republican, nationalist, all of us need to ask the question, how do we now navigate and manage this part of Irish history where change is happening? It's in live play. And I want us to be prepared. And by the way, I want everybody to be part of this conversation, including those who will say, actually, I don't want United Ireland. That has to be articulated.
Well, I suppose the enormous positive
well.
here is that at least we're able to have this conversation in a completely civilised and organised way. When you mentioned at the outset the Troubles, when you look back at the Troubles, the modern Troubles in Northern Ireland, the 20th century into the 21st century Troubles, and the blood that was shed over something which now we're capable of having a civilised conversation about. What's your take on it? What's your overall take?
I think it reflects that war is the failure of politics, and that to resolve any conflict you have to have serious political intent, investment. People need to take risks. It requires political integrity. It requires honesty. And unfortunately, that was missing for a very, very long time. We had to live with the myth that somehow conflict erupted in the North for no good reason. The reasons were discrimination. The reason was a virtual apartheid state where Irish people living in Ireland were told that they were second class. They were denied access to housing, to employment opportunities, and that bred conflict. So the big lesson here is, first of all, let's treat each other equally. Let's respect each other's human rights and dignity. And where there is a conflict, let politicians actually have the guts and the courage to step forward. And I hope that's what we see now in Ireland and also elsewhere in the world. I'm thinking of Palestine, because the same lessons that have been learned around Ireland need to be learned about the Middle East and Palestine. It needs to be sorted out, but that takes honesty, it'll take integrity, and it takes political courage. So
well, let's hope that the tone and the quality of your meetings later today are precisely in that spirit.
Thank
Friendly,
you, Richard.
Warm and positive. Thank you
Mary
very
Lou
much.
McDonald, thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.